today on a sunny day in Chattanooga, Tennessee. This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. This is the first local sports show on of the day, even though I will admit I do talk a lot about the national stories. A lot of it does have to do, though, with the NFL. Like, that's just how big it is. It's just NFL always has news. There's no such thing as a slow NFL news day during the regular season. You can find drama everywhere, on every team. Same thing for college football too, but it's mostly football. Like, it's just going to be football from now until the World Series, probably. We'll talk about the World Series when we roll around there. This is how you can find us. If you search us on the web, you'll find us on Twitter and Facebook by searching Hot News Talk Radio. We want more of you to interact with us. We'd love to hear from you, talk about the different news stories that we're interested in, that you're interested in. You report, the world decides here at Hot News Talk Radio. You can listen to us, find us on the TuneIn Radio app in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. For those of you with Android devices, the TuneIn Radio app is absolutely free, and you can listen to our radio station. Importantly, simply search Hot News Talk Radio, give us a follow, press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. You can also just listen to us on hotnewstalkradio.com. If you're right in front of your computer, just open up a tab. Boom. There we are. This is Clutch with Keon Rose. I am pretty excited today to talk about a few stories that have been buzzing around. And when I tell you the NFL is full of drama, the reason why I am perplexed by how much drama is that a lot of the drama in the NFL that happens off the field tends to involve money, which is, I suppose, is not surprising. They say that money makes the world go round. It shouldn't, but it does. I think that we are a lot of times incredibly taken with the idea of having lots of money or more money than we're making. We think that maybe this makes us happy. It doesn't, by the way. It doesn't. The people who have a lot of money are no more happier than you. Having millions of dollars doesn't make you happier. It might give you more stuff to do while you're unhappy. Having money helps to distract you from your unhappiness, but real happiness has to come from within. You can't buy it. But Cam Chancellor is going to try and buy it anyway. The safety for the Seattle Seahawks is continuing to hold out from his team. He's not shown up to practice, training camp, any of the games. They've played one so far. They're going to be playing another one. And Cam Chancellor still hasn't shown up. They're going to be playing Green Bay this Sunday. And Cam Chancellor hasn't come to camp. He wants more money on his contract. And I get it. I'm not opposed to a player holding out. Ever. When you're talking about a guy who's asking for more money after he's already being paid millions and millions of dollars, I think a lot of us tend to get into that position of, well, look, it's millions. Just go ahead and take your millions and go away. But the reason why I can't ever get mad at these guys is because they're not asking other poor people for money or asking other millionaires for money. These are guys who have money turning and asking billionaires for money. Are we really feeling bad for the billionaires in this situation? Is that really where we've gone? I'm not going to feel bad for the billionaire in this situation. Can't do it. But what makes Cam Chancellor's holdout particularly of note and particularly interesting to me is that he already got paid. Now I have a disagreement with Cam Chancellor a little bit. I'm usually on the side of the player, like 90% of the time. Here I'm going to disagree with Cam because they already guaranteed him a lot of money. They gave him a contract, a 3 3-year contract. That 3 years is a solid amount of years to have guaranteed money from a team. And not only have they taken care of him, they've taken care of everybody on that whole defense. Defenses, like defensive players, probably more than anybody will complain that how much money that quarterbacks make and how come offensive players always make more money. Well, it's an offensive driven league, but the Seattle Seahawks have actually poured money into their defense. They've been to the last 2 Super Bowls. They won one of them decisively, and particularly because of their defense. And look, management got smart and said, look, we're going to pay our guys. We're going to make sure they're taken care of. And they paid Cam Chancellor. And Cam took the money, agreed to the contract, and now he's like, well, that's not enough. And to me, I mean, that speaks to the job that he's got. That's just being a football player, because I can't go to any boss that I have and go, you know what? I know I agreed to work here for X amount of dollars, and I have been working here, and I think that my value to you is a little higher than that. So I'm not going to be showing up until you pay me more money. I think you and I and everyone else in the world would wish that was a situation. That's just not the form of employment that we have. But Cam Chancellor wants more money, and I know why the Seahawks are reluctant to pay him. The NFL, despite what many may think, is not a free market. There is a salary cap. Every team has a limit to how much money they can spend. It's part of a revenue sharing agreement amongst the teams to help the league remain competitive so that you don't end up in a situation that baseball has, where the New York Yankees are seemingly always perpetually good because they are the richest team in the league and they can afford anybody they want. So as soon as someone becomes a free agent, the New York Yankees just start throwing money at that guy until he's wearing pinstripes and he's got a New York Yankees logo on his head. It's that situation in baseball. And I think in baseball that there's a lot of different ways to counteract that. Teams have been able to win championships with smaller budgets. If you're just not rich enough, that you've got to be more clever. You've got to rely on numbers. You've got to rely on analytics. And you've just got to be smart in selecting instead of going, I want the biggest star. You can't afford the biggest star. You do the next best thing. You check down. You get a guy who hits well because maybe you've got a smaller ballpark, and so you will appreciate hitting a little bit more than pitching. So you prioritize and you put together someone a statistical roster, a roster of guys that with the numbers can win you games. And you don't have to pay them a lot of money. And then if any of those guys become superstars, they'll just leave you and join the New York Yankees. You can do that in baseball. It's harder to do in other sports, especially basketball. But football is a little hard to do that too, because you want to have a collection of guys who can do the things that you need them to do. It's all about winning your individual matchups first. Like, football works well when everybody is able to do their job. The right tackle has got to block his guy. The quarterback has got to be solid. If everyone's doing their job, then you can scheme. Then the tactics begin in the games. But you need certain people to be able to win individual one-on-one matchups. And Cam Chancellor has been a player for the Seahawks that consistently, at safety, individually wins his matchups. When it's time for him to come crashing down and crush a running back, that is exactly what he does. He covers well. He's a big guy. He's a hard hitter. You've got all of these things with him. And one of the issues is the replacement of Cam Chancellor is he's okay, but he's not Cam Chancellor. They're clearly missing him. And the Seahawks have to win without him. They have to, because Cam Chancellor originally started this holdout with zero leverage. We just paid you. That's basically what the Seahawks are saying to Cam Chancellor. We just paid you. We can't pay you again. We have a salary cap. Our salary cap is $143.28 million. That is the highest that every team has to be able to pay, can pay their players. If they go over that number, then they start to get penalized by the other teams in the league. So nobody wants to be that team going over the cap. You have to pay everybody what they think that they deserve, yada, yada, yada. And at the same time, stay underneath a salary cap. And it's a salary cap league, so sometimes you have to make sacrifices. But the Seahawks said, we're not going to sacrifice Cam Chancellor. We're going to pay him. And Cam Chancellor took the contract, agreed to the contract, and is now deciding that's not enough. That's not quite enough money to have me. And the Seahawks absolutely cannot fold on this. Cam Chancellor has no leverage except, the Seahawks lost to the Rams in week 1. And if they lose to the Packers, they'll be 0-2. And suddenly it's looking like maybe they need Cam Chancellor. Because Cam Chancellor is actually losing money. Every game that he doesn't show up to, and I'm going to have to fact check this, but I think he's missing somewhere in the ballpark of $20,000 to $25,000 a game. So he's going to be missing $40,000 to $50,000 for these 2 games that he's missed so far. He's not that far from losing the amount of money that he's asking for if he continues to hold out. He's going to lose money, but what he's risking, what he's banking on, is that the team needs him enough that they will pay him. And I wouldn't have said so before because the Seahawks have an incredible defense all the way around. It's not just Cam Chancellor. He's not just, because you could argue there are other players on that defense that are more important than him. There's Earl Bennett. There's Richard Sherman. And those guys got paid, by the way, too. Everybody on that defense basically got paid. And Cam Chancellor is continuing to be on his one-man strike, and the Seahawks cannot relent, because the moment that they do, everybody else in that locker room is going to start lining up. And why wouldn't they? You let a man renegotiate a contract in which you are already paying him millions of dollars, and he's got 3 years left on his deal, and he wants to renegotiate early. A lot of teams will renegotiate with you. If you've got 1 year left, the Cowboys did that with Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant, his contract was up, and they slapped the franchise tag on him, which is basically a mandatory 1 year contract that Dez Bryant has to, basically he's a Cowboy. He has no choice. He couldn't choose to go to any other team, and he gets paid the average of the top 5 receivers in the league in payment. So Dez Bryant was still going to be making quite a bit of money for that one season. And during that one season, the Cowboys were able to renegotiate with Dez Bryant and lock him up long-term for the team. Okay, that happens. Teams will renegotiate if you've got a year left and they like the progression that you've gone through, or they like what you can offer them, and they don't want to wait for you to be on the open market. Then they'll just pay you in advance. But nobody's paying you with 3 years left on your contract. Play that thing out, man. Just play out the whole contract. But this is actually smart for Cam Chancellor. This is an incredibly intelligent move, because, as long as the Seahawks continue to lose anyway, this is an intelligent move. If the Seahawks continue to lose, they will have to break down and pay him eventually. And nobody wants to start the season 0-4. But at what point do your teammates start to look at you and go, man, get in here? Seriously, just get in here. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you have the leverage to negotiate. And Cam Chancellor has found a sticking point. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, your home for the NFL on Sundays. We have a huge game coming up, 3:45. Eagles, Cowboys. So many questions with both of those teams. The Cowboys are looking to replace the production they lost when DeMarco Murray left them and went to Philadelphia to play for the Eagles. So the Cowboys are trying to fill that void. They nearly lost to the Giants right here on AM 1240 last Sunday night. Nearly lost to the Giants, and they're trying to move up, stay number 1 in the division, and they have to go through the Eagles to do it. And will the Eagles' new look offense be everything it's cracked up to be. We saw it unleash a little bit in the second half of that game against the Falcons last week. Do the Eagles continue to make steps forward and become that high-powered, potent offense that we think that they'll be, or do they regress? This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. I'm Keon Rose, and you've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose.
Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, and myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
That smells so good. Smells like a big Italian dinner. But you're going to walk out with two. Buy one hot pizza, get a one for free. 2 pizzas. You got the 2 for the price of 1 at Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. My favorite Italian restaurant of all the time. Now, I'm living in Hicks, and I go to Raphael's right down the street in Hicks and Pike, right near Highland Plaza. You're in Saudi Daisy? At Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria in Saudi Daisy. Just next to Saudi Daisy Church of God. Hey, you're on Signal Mountain. There's a Raphael's Italian Restaurant and a Pizzeria. It's right on the main drag. You're going to love the pasta, the pizza. Buy one hot pizza, get a one for free. 2 pizzas. You got the 2 for the price of 1 at Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Tastes so good. Bring the whole family. Come on, Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Mangia. Salute.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report every Sunday at 9 a.m. My guest this week is former Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Central Command, General Anthony Zinni, who'll be here to explain what it will take to stop the ISIS momentum. Don't miss General Anthony Zinni this Sunday at 9 a.m. in the Costa Report, right here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. I'm Keon Rose. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. Maybe you're listening to me on the TuneIn Radio app that you've downloaded from the Apple Store or Google Play Store for your mobile device, and you've searched Hot News Talk Radio and pressed play. Maybe you're on hotnewstalkradio.com, streaming live 24/7. Or maybe you're in your car listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You could possibly be on YouTube watching me right now if you search Hot News Talk Radio in the YouTube search bar. Is there a chance that you're on Twitter right now? If you are, search Hot News Talk Radio. Our Twitter handle is at Hot News Radio. We'd love to hear from you. And, of course, on Facebook, Hot News Talk Radio. We're the first thing that comes up. We do interact albeit slowly, but we're getting better. We're getting faster all the time. This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. So I'm talking about leverage. Cam Chancellor's talking about leverage, and every week that the Seahawks lose, he gains more. But if Cam Chancellor is the man with all the leverage, then Indianapolis Colts Chuck Pagano, the head coach of that team, is the man with no leverage whatsoever. Chuck Pagano is having friction with general manager Ryan Grigson, and part of it has to do with negotiations that he went through with Grigson and owner Jim Irsay this past summer. And Chuck Pagano looked at the number when they showed him how much they'd like to pay him in a contract extension. Chuck Pagano looked at that number and said he was insulted. Well, not that he said he was insulted. Reports are that Chuck Pagano was insulted. Why? Why was Chuck Pagano insulted by that number? I want to know. I don't know what the number was. That number hasn't been reported. But Chuck Pagano makes a pretty decent amount of money to coach a winning football team. And the reason why he has no leverage is because he's got a good football team. What, you ask? How could that be? Well, his football team has got this guy named Andrew Luck on it. And Andrew Luck is kind of a beast. Andrew Luck is going to be the face of the NFL for the next 10 to 15 years. So we can go ahead and get used to that one. As far as quarterbacking goes, he's it. Okay. We wonder where the league will go when Manning and Brady retire as those guys head to the ends of their career. Luck. We're going with Luck. There'll be a couple other guys joining him there because that's just how the NFL works. Quarterbacks we need them. And so there'll always be like 5 or 6 quarterbacks. But Luck, he's that guy. And Chuck Pagano doesn't have leverage because of Andrew Luck. That the Indianapolis Colts have made the playoffs every year that Pagano has been there. But they've also made the playoffs every year that Andrew Luck has been there. And it doesn't hurt that Andrew Luck has been amazing. And Chuck Pagano survived a bout with leukemia. And while he was away, his offensive coordinator, Bruce Arians, took over. And the Colts still made the playoffs because they had Andrew Luck. And Bruce Arians is a really good offensive coordinator too. So he was still calling the plays. That was his offensive scheme. He designed it. And Bruce Arians, that season went so well for Bruce Arians, he actually got a job off of that. He went to the Arizona Cardinals, where he is now the head coach, and doing a pretty amazing job down there. But Chuck Pagano is in a lose-lose situation with this negotiation already. He's in a lose-lose situation. If the Colts have another great season, and they started off pretty rough, they lost last week, they didn't look very good, but if they have another great season, then it's not Pagano, it's Luck. We're going to give Luck the credit for that one. He's been amazing. The Indianapolis Colts won 2 games before they drafted him, and they've been an annual 10-win team ever since. So we're going to go ahead and give that to Andrew Luck. We're going to give him all the credit because, quite frankly, I would think that he would deserve it. But if they lose, then we got to blame Pagano. Like, now you're losing despite Andrew Luck. Because here's the thing, even when the Colts lose games, Andrew Luck is still putting up video game numbers. Like, he still looks really good even when they lose. And part of that is the talent around him, which is that he doesn't have much. Their offensive line is not great. They can't run the ball at all. He's got T.Y. Hilton as his top target as receiver, and that's about it. Tight end Kobe Fleener's not bad either, but I mean, that's all she wrote. And to be fair to Chuck Pagano, he hasn't been given the most to work with. Because outside of Andrew Luck on the offensive side of the ball, who else do they have? And Whose fault is that but the general manager? That's your job. Put together a good team. And Ryan Grigson hasn't. But Ryan Grigson is also the one who hires the coach. That's going to be his guy as well. Ryan Grigson is going to be the one that determines on some level, this is how much we think our coach is worth. So for Chuck Pagano to be upset at him is completely reasonable. Ryan Grigson made that trade for Trent Richardson. If you recall, Trent Richardson, who is not in the league, who ESPN analyst and former NFL corner called the worst running back in the history of the NFL. And Trent Richardson got cut from the Raiders this preseason, and it looked completely reasonable. And you can look it up on YouTube. Trent Richardson is in the preseason game, and his offensive line does an amazing job. They open up a huge hole for him to his left. Okay? I could literally drive my car through that hole. My car. Okay? Most NFL running backs are happy when they have a hole that an NFL running back could fit through, much less one that a car could fit through. You think I'm exaggerating. Look this up on YouTube. Trent Richardson decides not to go to his left and go through the hole that you could drive a car through, but instead continues running to his right, runs into his offensive lineman. I guess he just was happy to see them. And where he's tackled, he goes left. That's a touchdown. They're like 5 yards away. That is a touchdown. It was unbelievable. It was unreal. And this is the guy that Ryan Grigson brought in to be run support for Andrew Luck. And that didn't work out at all. This season, he brought in Frank Gore and he brought in Andre Johnson, two elite talents in the NFL, or at least guys who were once elite in their primes. But these guys are old in football years. I think Frank Gore is 29 and Andre Johnson's going to be 31 soon. Don't quote me on that. But they're old in football years. Like, their primes got used up. Especially, I feel bad for Andre Johnson. His prime got used up on some really bad Houston Texans teams. They just completely took everything that he had. But their primes are up. But you can still gamble a little bit and say, maybe this guy doesn't have 1,000% left in the tank, but he can give me a little bit here and there. Both of those guys looked dreadful last week. Frank Gore didn't look like he knew how to run anymore. And Andre Johnson was completely worthless last week. Not as a human being and not overall. Just last week, I'm just saying that it looked really, really bad for both of those guys. And this is the general manager that we're supposed to be siding with on this one. I don't. I think he's wrong. And that's where all this talk of leverage comes in. I actually think Pagano is worth more. I don't think he's a bad coach, but a lot of people could win some of the games that he was winning with Andrew Luck. The Indianapolis Colts are one of those teams. They feast on other losing teams, on teams with losing records. Outside of their division, the Colts have a pretty sub 500 record. They win less than 50% of the games they play outside of their division. So they're winning a couple of games outside of their division, and then they're feasting on the fact that their division is terrible. That division has the Titans in it, and the Titans have been bad for years and years and years. They have the Texans in it, and the Texans have been always an 8-8, 7-9, 9-7 team. Or who else is in the AFC South? That division's bad. That's the point. And they've been feasting on that. And it'll be interesting to see now that the Titans are an improving team where we go from here. And can the Colts continue? Because I mean, if Marcus Mariota is as good as we hope he is, that the Titans already have a pretty solid defense. They run the ball incredibly well. They're a more well-rounded team than the Colts are. They just don't have Andrew Luck. If Mariota turns out to be 3/4 as good as Luck has been, the Titans could probably win that division, which is incredible to think about. That is incredible to think about. But you're looking at a team in the Colts that they just don't have what it takes. What you're hoping for from them is a team that's winning a large number of games, tough games on the road, outside of the division, inside of the division, doesn't matter. But it does matter. And the head coach is the guy that's supposed to be the person in control of all of that. And Chuck Pagano hasn't done an excellent job. He's just done a good job. So you could upgrade from Pagano, and Pagano doesn't have the leverage either way to say, no, don't give me the axe. He doesn't have the leverage either way, because if they win, it's Luck. If they lose, it's him. And the fact of the matter is, the Colts don't have to look too hard to try and find another coach. Like, you've got teams like the Redskins and the Raiders, and there are teams that are known for being toxic. The Browns, those teams are known for being toxic and known for having situations where you're a head coach, you know they're not going to be good, you know that their front office is bad, you know that the ownership they interfere with the things that you do. They'll try and tell you which players to start and who to draft and who to hire. You don't want to end up in those situations. The Colts don't have that reputation, and they have another thing that those three teams don't have. The Raiders hope they have it in Derek Carr. The Redskins definitely don't have it because they're flip-flopping between Robert Griffin and Kirk Cousins, and who knows what the Browns situation is. A quarterback. You need a good quarterback, and the Colts have the guy that's probably going to be the best in the league someday, and I can't imagine they'll have any trouble trying to find a head coach. Coaches will come out of the woodwork to try and coach Andrew Luck. If I got an opportunity to coach, I could patch in a call to the Indianapolis Colts to just say, hey, I'd love to coach for you. They wouldn't hire me. I'm not a smart enough football guy, but I'm just saying Andrew Luck would make that job much easier. I just need to hire an offensive coordinator who knew what he was doing. That's not a bad gig if you can get it. People would be fighting each other to coach Andrew Luck. So Chuck Pagano has no legs to stand on whatsoever, even though he's right as rain. He's as right could possibly be, and he's probably not going to be the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts next season, which isn't such a bad thing because it's not like a firing. His contract is just going to be up, and both sides could mutually agree to walk away, which has been a thing that's been happening in the NFL lately as a trend. Guys just aren't getting fired. They're just like, look, I'm fed up with you. You're fed up with me. Let me just walk away. Jim Harbaugh did it, went to go coach at the University of Michigan, and we're all watching with bated breath to see how that turns out. John Fox walked away from Indianapolis and coaching Peyton Manning to go to the Chicago Bears because he and management couldn't get along. And Rex Ryan, I believe that he did get fired by the Jets, but it wasn't a situation where we all were shocked that Rex Ryan got fired by the Jets. We all kind of knew what was happening there, and he was going to leave afterwards regardless. And he went to the Buffalo Bills, where he is coaching a really, really strong defensive unit. I can't, that's not a job that you're mad at. This is Clutch with Keon Rose here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Thanks for listening today. We've got so much more to talk about, including DirecTV and the NFL teaming up to bring you NFL Sunday tickets. Is it fair? Is it legal? A new lawsuit, class action lawsuit filed against them brings that up. And we'll discuss that and a little bit more here on Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Lots of sunshine will continue out there through the afternoon. Warming up, highs into the lower 80s. Tonight, clear, lows 58 to 60. A little more late fog. for Friday. Another great looking day, looking dry through the weekend as well. A little warmer though, with highs through Saturday near 85. Did you know that you could purchase a home now with little or nothing down? Find your dream home with McBriar Realty. Call McBriar Realty at 706-657-2353 or McBriarRealty.com. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of feeling like just another account number to your financial advisor? Try something refreshingly different. Call Edward Jones Financial Advisor Patrick Neal in Hickson at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Saudi Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's EJ Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156. An alternative to insurance for people of Christian interest is Samaritan Ministries, a cost-sharing group whose fellow members contribute to your medical expenses. Hi, David Tulis here, member of Samaritan Ministries. I have no deductibles, no silly in-network rules. I choose my own doctors. I'm a cash payer and get the cash discount with med providers. I'm 100% compensated by Christian families around the nation who send their checks directly with a personal note and pray for me in my medical distress. I have a family membership. I write a $405 check every month to a person in need. Just love it. Learn more about Samaritan Ministries Tuesday, September 29 at 7 p.m. at Brainerd Hills Presbyterian Church on East Brainerd Road. It's a mini conference on the Christian alternative to medical insurance.
This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to check out the Cowboys versus the Eagles this Sunday at 3:45. Divisional matchup between two heated rivals. The Cowboys and the Eagles hate each other. Tony Romo versus the newly acquired Eagles, Sam Bradford. With all the divisional ramifications on the line, and whether or not the Cowboys can even run the ball because their running back decided to walk away and go join the Eagles. Stayed in the division for that one. There's so many storylines in that game. Don't forget to check it out. It's at 3:45 here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. I would like to talk about the NFL some more. I basically have been bashing the NFL all week, which is weird considering the football season's back, but that's also when the storylines show up. So what are you going to do? Make sure you check us out at hotnewstalkradio.com. We're streaming 24/7. If you'd like to listen to us on your mobile device, then you can get the TuneIn Radio app from the Apple Store or Google Play Store. It's absolutely free. Search Hot News Talk Radio, press follow, and then play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio wherever you go. You can also talk to us on Facebook and Twitter. Search Hot News Talk Radio. And we'd love to hear from you. We do interact. So there's a bar that is going to sue the NFL and DirecTV because the NFL has a monopoly on out-of-market games. And by that, I mean there are games that are in market and there are games that are out of market. In our market, are the Atlanta Falcons. In our market is the Tennessee Titans. If we can't get either of those games, on occasion we'll get the New Orleans Saints. Those are the out-of-market games. Or in-market games. Out-of-market would literally be everyone else. I'm a Redskins fan. That's a team in Washington, D.C. That's out of market. My brother's a Chargers fan. San Diego. That's out of market. So we would have to purchase NFL Sunday Ticket to watch our favorite teams, or we would have to go to a local bar, local establishment that has purchased NFL Sunday Ticket already and go to those places and try and catch the games there, which oddly enough, that's exactly what I do. There are a few places around town, and you can go to, Bar Louie or Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever. They have the games there, and then you just ask them to check it out. So the question that's being asked, and it's being reported by SB Nation, the Gangrene Nation page, is DirecTV's NFL Sunday Ticket doomed? There's a bar in San Francisco. It's a local bar. It's a small bar. It's called the Mucky Duck, and they're filing a class action lawsuit against NFL Sunday Ticket because they believe that these games are inflated. The prices of NFL Sunday Ticket are inflated because DirecTV and the NFL have a co-monopoly on it. And if they do inflate those prices, that is a violation of Section 1 and 2 of the Sherman Antitrust Act. And that was passed by Congress to prevent businesses from acting in an anti-competitive manner. And the examples that they're going to use as businesses acting in a competitive manner are literally all the other leagues, which is smart. The NBA has their own version of it. The NHL does, and so does Major League Baseball. MLB Extra Innings, NBA League Pass, and NHL Center Ice offer more games per week over longer seasons. And their out-of-market games are not strictly with DirecTV or Dish, but over multiple networks, which means that you pay less for those packages. So that if you are a Milwaukee Bucks fan living here in Chattanooga, you aren't paying extra money just so that you will have to watch the Bucks, in a similar way that if you were a Green Bay Packers fan living here in Chattanooga, you are. You just are. So once the district court approves the class action lawsuit under the federal rule, then it will be subject to any decision or settlement, and it affects basically everybody involved. And that would mean that this class action lawsuit encompasses all DirecTV commercial subscribers that purchased NFL Sunday Ticket from DirecTV or its subsidiaries. So is it legal? And it's one of those things where the NFL, the NFL is going to do anything for $1. It is how this organization works. Look, the NFL strikes a deal with Madden, with EA Sports, to make the Madden football video game. Once upon a time, there was a number of football video games. It wasn't just Madden. Once upon a time. And what happened was they strike that exclusive deal, and EA Sports pays the NFL a little bit more money, and you have no more competition. And you could argue that the Madden games haven't been quality-wise as good since. Sure, the graphics have gotten better, but that's really more to advances in technology than advances in gameplay or design or, any of those things that come with competition that you continually try to innovate so that you don't get beaten by the other guy. Well, I mean, there's nothing to compete against. And the same thing happens here with NFL Sunday Ticket. You are getting charged a little bit more, because here's the thing. They're just bringing the feeds in to one place. Okay, bringing you NFL Sunday Ticket is not this $1 million At least not the way that I understand it. It's not this $1 million affair. Okay, they're not going out and adding more cameras to the field so that they can personally film it. They're just bringing you the same feeds from other markets. That's the reason why people have been able to stream the games online. You just find an online feed of a CBS game out in San Francisco so you can watch the 49ers. And there you go. So it just seems it seems odd to me that this was never addressed before. That nobody ever thought to question this before in any way, shape, at all? No? Okay. Maybe it was just me. I looked at this and thought, why, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense because you can, for instance, the NHL Center Ice, some of those games are on the Fox Sports network, and you can really only get that well with DirecTV, but there are others that you can get on Dish better. And so then the price drops. You can get these packages on multiple platforms. And so the price drops. That's how it's supposed to work. So I find it incredibly delusional of the NFL. And these seasons are longer. NBA's 82 games. NHL is in the ballpark of 60 some odd games. Baseball season is 160 some odd games. So why are these packages costing less? Or are they comparable in price? Part of it is that the NFL is valued higher. The NFL is worth more money. It is. I get that. But with that said, it's not so much more money over 16 games. You're paying $300 for them to basically pipe feeds into your house that you could get. It's ridiculous. It's what it is. So we'll be following that story more as it unfolds and as the season goes on. The Tennessee Titans are a team that I have been impressed with, and part of that is Marcus Mariota. In fact, almost all of that is Marcus Mariota because he's a weird guy. I mean, on the field, he's a weird guy. Like he's an athletic quarterback whose first instinct is not to run. That's weird. You look at all the other guys, Cam and Robert Griffin and Colin Kaepernick. A lot of the issues with them is they're so athletic and they're so physically gifted that their first instinct is to use their physical gifts over their mental gifts. Because I think all of those guys are incredibly intelligent also. If you listen to the way that they talk about football, you're not talking to guys who don't understand the game. They may not always play like it, and that's hard to do when the game moves up to a certain speed and a 300-pound man is trying to jump on you. And when a 300-pound man has hit you and torn your ACL before, it's very hard to apply what you know to a football game. I get it. But all those guys are incredibly smart. But their first instinct is to use their physical gifts over their mental gifts. And what makes Marcus Mariota so good and so interesting to me is that despite the fact that he is the fastest in-game quarterback ever, because of all the technology that we have nowadays, we're able to measure how fast guys run in the game. Marcus Mariota was running in a designed run for the Titans last week, and he topped out at 22 miles per hour wearing football pads, in a game. This man was running at the pace of a small car, basically. Marcus Mariota was running through a school zone. They'd give him a ticket. That's incredible. And for that to not be his first instinct, that when there's pressure around him and there's pressure closing in on him, his first instinct is to keep his eyes downfield, to move around in the pocket, and find a receiver throwing the ball because he's mentally going through his progressions. He looks at his first receiver. He looks at his second. And only as a last resort does he run. That a lot of these guys don't have. Like Cam Newton is an incredible runner. And he's a pretty good quarterback with a high enough ceiling to be a much better quarterback. But his first instinct, even now that Cam's been in the league, 4 years? His first instinct, 5 years, is still to run. And it's just amazing to see Mariota operate in the pocket much more as a passer. I was excited to see him as a runner, more as a passer than anything. And I think, I'm not saying he's going to be, the next big thing. Okay, it's hard to tell now. He's only played a week. And the big thing in football that we all love to do is just overreact and knee-jerk to everything. Okay, Mariota's played well. He's the savior. And if next week Mariota doesn't play well, why did we draft him? You don't want to play that whole roller coaster game. You got to have a big enough sample size. Look at a full NFL season. We'll take a look at his body of work then. But he's showed some signs of things that are very impressive that players in his prototype, players in his mold do not do. And I am excited about the Titans because of that. And we're talking about Ryan Grigson, the GM for the Colts, and everything that he has failed to do for Andrew Luck in terms of getting him wide receivers that consistently go out and catch the ball and getting him a running game and getting him an offensive line. The Titans have built these things already. They just needed to pop Mariota in the middle. They already had a pretty decent offensive line. They run the ball very well. Bishop Sankey's been very good. They've brought in wide receivers. Their defense is solid, and they've beefed it up. So the Titans, as much as everyone wants to walk off and just pick the Colts as the division winner, the Titans are as in good a position as anybody else to have an opportunity to take this whole thing over. The Jaguars are in the AFC South. The Texans are in the AFC South. The Titans and the Colts. And the Jaguars and the Texans are really, really bad. The Texans more so on offense than anything because they don't have a quarterback. And the Jaguars because they've got a young quarterback that they like, but they don't have an anything else. So, look, the Titans have got a shot. We'll just keep an eye on Mariota as the season progresses. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for listening today. Been brought to you by Delia's Authentic Mexican Food with a rich selection of loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, and of course, enchiladas with beef, chicken, and pork. Enchiladas are my favorite food. I'm going to Delia's at Dayton Pike near Thrasher, the Thrasher Light. Fresh ingredients cooked to perfection for lunch and dinner. Treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food today. It's lunchtime, folks. I'm going to Delia's. I don't know about you. And I'm not kidding. This is not a joke. AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Filled you in on all the sports news today, and we're going to be breaking down NFL games and college football games tomorrow as we head into the weekend where you can catch Cowboys versus Eagles at 3:45 here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. I'm Keon Rose. This has been Clutch. Thank you for joining me today. See you tomorrow.
Lots of sunshine will continue out there through the afternoon. Warming up, highs into the lower 80s. Tonight, clear, lows 58 to 60. A little more late fog. For Friday, another great-looking day, looking dry through the weekend as well. A little warmer, though, with highs through Saturday near 85. Did you know that you could purchase a home now with little or nothing down? Find your dream home.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News. I'm Harley Carnes. GM will pay nearly $1 billion to the government